how was Spa? Tell me all about it.
Spa was it's pretty good. It's the prologue. So what SRO do is they announce the entry list and have a bit of
Okay.
a build up to the 24-hour race.
Mm.
So we had about 77 cars out testing, 10
Oh, that's
manufacturers. It's a fairly straightforward day, to be honest. You had two test sessions each day, people coming in and out the pits. And yeah, we had the best weather in the world as well. We had blue skies.
perfect
Um,
for racing.
yeah, I had access all around the circuit with keys, so I didn't have to climb over any gates. I could drive to every corner.
Oh,
If you to summarize the best weekend, or what the best couple of days, it was good. Yeah, it
that's fair.
was
That's fair.
enjoyable.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us and the recording who you are. Tell us all about
Okay.
yourself and how you got into motorsport.
Great. Well, hello. I'm James Roberts, and I'm a professional motorsport photographer, and I've been doing it for a little over 10 years now. So
Wow.
I was never really born into motorsport. A lot of people out there have been going to race circuits since they were probably like yay big. So I was never born into motorsport. So it was something which I learned to love probably from the age of 15.
Okay.
So my dad used to race in the British Racing Sports Car Club back in 2006,
Did he?
which is how I've managed to get into this whole world of motorsport. Yeah, he used to race in that, and naturally, between helping him prepare the car, I was only 15 at the time.
Good
I
skills.
yeah, exactly. I had nothing else to do, so there was like a camera in the car, and essentially I just used to take a couple of photographs while he was out on track, and I just kind of realized that, this was quite cool, and maybe this is something which I could pursue. And then things really just led on from there, to be honest. As all these years later, I've managed to make a career out of it and been doing it ever since.
I
But
mean, that's amazing. What did he used to race?
he still has it actually. It's a Rover 220 Turbo Cup car.
Oh my
So
gosh.
quite
Okay.
old school. It's quite well suited for the name of this podcast. It's bright orange. So
Hey, we
yeah,
love.
I know. So yeah, it's a good bit of fun. It's 230 horsepower. It weighs about a ton. So do you know what? It goes. It's quite a good bit of kit.
Yeah, it sounds it. Was he good? Did he win? Did he get trophies?
That was his first year of racing. He always had his ups and downs. He had a couple of class wins now and
Hey.
then, but it was never really trailblazing. The grid used to be called the LMA Euro Saloons, and it was a
Okay.
tin tops all comers race. So there were quite a few good cars on the grid. So there are a couple of names from the past, like Richard Hawken. He had a Nissan Primera Super Touring car, which was Leslie's old car, which was really cool. You
That
had
is good.
John Hammersley, who's I think the chairman of CSCC at the
Yeah.
moment. He had Cleland's old Vauxhall Cavalier, which incredible piece of kit. And you had usual things like Nobles, 911s. So he was always kind of beating around the bush with like MG ZRs and sort of similar like for like powered vehicles. So
Yeah.
that whole experience of him racing introduced me to this whole world of motorsport. And yeah, I was hooked. Honestly, the first year of racing, he did racing, I was hooked.
That makes sense. I
Yeah.
feel like motorsport is one of those things where you either love it or you hate it. And if you love it,
Mm,
you love it. The bug catches you and you don't get
yeah.
away from it.
My first ever event, which I spectated, was British Touring Car Championship in 1999.
Oh my gosh,
I
that's the
was
year I was born.
I feel really old now. Oh my God.
Sorry.
So I was 7 at the time.
Oh,
Yeah. So we went to Silverstone. My dad's into his cars, obviously. My mum, not so much. My brother isn't as interested. So we went to the grandstand at Woodcut,
yeah.
and all I can remember was the weather was absolutely atrocious. They had the tractors out with the sweepers trying to shift all the surface water.
We
I
both know
think we
weekends
only
like that
ended
though.
up watching a couple of the support series races. My dad was loving it and I was loving it, obviously. But I just remember being so cold, freezing as it is in the grandstands at Silverstone. And we must have ended up only watching a couple of support races like Formula Ford, and I think Fiestas were out, Fiesta Cup at the time it was called. And I think we only ended up watching one of the feature races on the day, and we decided to
Oh,
go home because it was just so cold. But
I mean, if that isn't Great British Motorsport, what is?
yeah, you just either love it or hate it. You embrace it, don't you?
Yeah,
So
all
yeah,
weathers. I always remember. So the weekend I signed up for marshalling was a truck weekend, and it
okay,
absolutely chucked it down. There was rivers running around Donington, and we were like huddled on two camp chairs underneath an umbrella, pulled down low over our heads, like we're gonna wait it out. We want to see the trucks. It was
absolutely.
frozen, but it was so worth it. So worth it. I have a curious question. This is going to be eclectic. Are you ready? This is going to bounce everywhere. I have a curious
Go for it.
question. You know how, well, have you heard about the controversy of light boxes versus flags?
Yes, so we have the FIA standard like LED matrix boards, aren't they, on
Yeah,
post, and they are essentially replacing traditional marshalling with the flags.
yeah.
Yeah.
Big issue. A lot of people are talking about it, but I was wondering from like a photography point of view, is there one you prefer? Does it make any difference having a light box instead of a flag?
If I'm being honest, I quite like the traditional method of a flag being a flag marshal. I've actually flag marshaled, funny enough.
Have you?
Yes.
Oh, tell me
Another
about it.
side story to this. I actually ended up doing 1 year's worth of racing with my dad later on down the line,
Yeah,
2017 in 750 Motor Club. And as part of my efforts to get my signatures, I did a day's marshalling at Donington Historic Festival.
such a good
I flag
weekend.
marshaled. Yeah, I was on the
Oh,
post exit of Coppice,
yeah,
going towards Museum Street. And
very nice.
yeah, I was on with a really good team of people. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I ended up flag marshalling. And I just liked the interaction and the something which is, you're physically part of the meeting and involved. And going back to your original question, I do feel like the LED boards they take away a little bit of that essence of traditional marshalling. The benefit of them as well is that if something happens during the session, while I'm working, I can typically see what's happening a lot quicker because you just see it in the very distance, like a flashing red LED light. Yeah, it's helps you to be able to read the race better
That makes
because you
sense.
can see what's happening at each corner just a bit more clearly. So they have their
Yeah,
benefits, I suppose. But yeah,
that's
bring
fair.
back flags. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people still prefer the flags. How did you find flag marshalling for a day? Like, was it
Um,
confusing? Did you have TSL timing up and do the proper blue flagging and everything?
I flag marshaled on a lot of different categories that day because the Donington Historic Festival has everything from Formula Juniors to touring cars to all this pre-war stuff. And I did have TSL up just to kind of keep a track of who the back markers were and who
Yeah.
the leading trios were, I suppose. But yeah, it took a little bit of time getting used to who was coming up quickly and being able to bring out the blue flag because you obviously don't want to incorrectly blue flag
Yeah.
somebody. So I must have had two other people with me in that little tower. I don't think the post is there anymore, actually. I think they might have removed it. But yeah, I had some great team of people there with me, just sort of like helping me along and just lead me on step by step. And I did make a few mistakes, but they were giving me really good constructive feedback on the technique of actually waving the flag. And because
Yeah.
there's funny enough quite an art to it
Oh, there
which
is.
you never realize. The camaraderie was really good during the day, and it was the social aspect of marshalling was really stood out to me. Yeah,
Mm, that's fair.
it's really good.
I will never forget. So it's one of my first weekends doing the flag box at Donington. And I came to wave the checkered flag and I was like, right, I've got it. I've got it. First race of the weekend.
Yeah.
There's a photographer right there pointing the camera at me. I've got to get this right. I cannot mess up this shot. I hold the flag up, I bring it down, and it just all like ravels into itself.
Oh
And
no,
it all like clumps together. And I'm like, I've just ruined their photo. I've waved the
it's
flag badly. Given a bad name to every flag marshal.
there's been a couple of times where I have been in that situation where you've went over to the pit wall with a minute to go and you're in a bit of a rush and Yeah, sometimes the car lands behind the flag as it comes down. So
Really?
you sometimes you do miss the photo if the lens isn't focusing correctly. I know that was sometimes an issue when I was starting out when the lens wasn't focusing correctly, but it happens, if you get the shot, great. If not, yeah, it's one of those things. But sometimes photographers do impede on marshal's duties. For example, at the Citroen C1 24 hours
Mm.
during the Brit Car and the Supercar Challenge combined grid. John Souch, quite a renowned person, he does all the starts at Silverstone with the BRCC, and he went to wave the green flag at the gantry at Silverstone, and
Yeah.
the photographer was too close. So he obviously had his camera over the gantry where John would be waving the flag,
Mm.
and he went to wave the green flag, and his flag caught the camera because it was too close, and
Oh,
it was a massive flap. Well, excuse the pun. It was a massive flap. It just you couldn't
okay.
script it,
No.
um, and he couldn't wave the flag because the camera and the flag was entangled. And
Oh my God.
yeah, it's important that photographers respect the work and duties of marshals because we always chase this unique and creative picture, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves that we're here, marshals are there to do a job and need to respect working areas.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, I never knew the accreditation process to get like that media tabars. Is
Yes.
it a difficult process? I've heard that it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was, or it takes a lot longer than I thought. How do you get to the tabard point?
It's something that's talked about a lot in this industry. I think it's more the case that nowadays there's a lot more videographers, and being able to accredit yourself as a working person is there's a big gray area essentially because anyone can self-publish their work,
Mm.
whether it be video or use an iPhone and claim to be a content creator. The standard practice is you need to be fully insured, which is quite easy to get. I think Silverstone need £10 million of public liability insurance.
Oh,
Um, yeah, but that's quite easy to get. Anyone can buy it. It's £80 typically. You need to have a covering letter from like an organization, a publication, an agency. For me, that's not so much an issue because I work with a handful of people in the industry which give me access. So sometimes it's the BRSCC who is one of my clients. Sometimes it's Motorsport UK. It can be Autosport, but basically they're looking for somebody which has a good circulation, or meaning which your work is going to come across a lot of views.
okay, that makes
So
sense.
a lot of the time when people get this really wrong, when you get accredited at a motorsport venue, circuits are looking to sell tickets. They're looking to publicize what the event is actually going on. So they're looking to be able to get more people in through the door. So when people go and get accreditation with a team, they're not interested in that because the kind of the demographic of what that imagery is going to be used for is quite narrow. But
Okay.
if you're working for a publication like Autosport or the BRCC, they're looking for basically the most amount of exposure and views which your content is going to come across.
I mean, that
So
makes sense.
yeah, no, it does. So when a lot of people get their media accreditations revoked, sometimes this is a factor because they're looking for people which are going to be as much working for the circuit with promoting the events. And then they typically ask for anywhere between 3 to 10 examples of published work, normally within 12 months. So
Ooh.
they have to narrow it down though in this day and age because there's a lot of spectators out there taking photos and there's a lot of other motorsport photographers out there. So they try and make their lives easier more than anything with accrediting as little people as possible.
That makes sense. Must be stressful on your end though.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, definitely can be. I think the worst part of the year is getting all of your published work together for your season pass.
Mm.
MSV, for example, they ask for, I think I want to say 10 piece of published work. So,
It's a
and that's
lot.
all has to be within 12 months. So that's, month and a half. You need
Yeah.
at least one cutting from a major media outlet.
That is very stressful. I didn't realize that much went into it.
A lot of my published work comes from Autosport,
Mm.
Motorsport News, Revolution, Motorsport UK's in-house magazine. The BRSCC self-publish a lot of stuff as well. So I tend to do quite okay with published work. But
Yeah,
yeah, it for people on the starting point of the ladder, it is an uphill struggle being able to get that initial published work.
that
So
makes sense.
when I first started out, I got approached by GT Porsche magazine.
Oh,
Um,
that's nice.
um, yeah, they had a support series in the BRCC called Porsche Championship, and they wanted some general coverage of that, which at the time I shot all from the spectator side.
Oh my God.
So you had to be quite mindful with where you're doing your start pictures. At the time, they wanted stuff from Cadwell Park, which was very fortunate because you have very good access to getting views of the circuit without media accreditation. So
Fair.
I ended up doing a commission for GT Porsche from the spectator side. And I think that was my first ever set of published work. And
Hey.
from there on, once I was old enough to get media accreditation, I then used that contact to then get onto the touring car package and shoot Carrera Cup. And that was good. I will never forget the first time I was at Turn 1 at Croft
Yeah.
with a media tabard, and you can just hear those Porsches on the rev limiter, and you feel this buzz of adrenaline as they're coming racing towards you. You already feel quite exposed at Croft at Turn 1. So, yeah, it was a bit of an overload, and I can just remember feeling quite overwhelmed.
That's fair. Speaking about Croft, I want to go to as many more circuits as I can,
Mhm.
obviously. What's your favorite circuit? Which one would you recommend?
I think UK circuits. Oh, it's just so difficult.
I
There's so many
know.
great circuits. Silverstone on a sunny day, you can't beat it. It
Okay,
is the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle. When you're stood at Luffield and you've got these really nice blue skies and nice clouds, it's about 20 degrees. It doesn't get better than that.
that's fair.
It's fabulous. Second choice, I would probably give Cadwell, actually. Yeah,
Really?
Cadwell's great.
Okay, I've
Yeah.
not done Cadwell yet.
Um, it's great. You need to go. It's just a lovely place. It's like a nice park, and they've dropped a motorsport circuit in the middle of it. It's lovely.
That sounds
Very,
great.
very easy to get around as well. In terms of other circuits, maybe outside of the UK, I
Mm.
think probably my favorite track I've ever shot at was Fuji.
Ooh.
Really,
Oh,
really
that's
cool.
exciting. What was it like?
I went there for the WEC back in
Oh.
2019, I want to say.
Oh.
Um, And I think there's a misconception with Fuji that you will see the mountain every time you go there. And you get that picture in your head of what Fuji is like.
Yeah.
Sometimes people go there and they never see the mountain at all.
Really? I thought it was just
Yeah,
like I mean it's a mountain. It's
yeah.
huge. It's you've got to see it from everywhere, surely.
No, sometimes the cloud cover is so bad. You'll go there for like a week and you'll
Oh,
never see it.
that's
And I can't
so
imagine how shortchanged that would make you feel.
yeah.
You've traveled all that way to just never see the mountain. So I did see it
Yeah.
most of the time I was there, and I went out covering. It was mostly when Janetta was running their LMP1 program,
Mm.
which was really cool. So it was nice to be with the team covering that, and the car itself was still in its kind of infancy of testing. So, but no, it was a really good event, and everything about Japan and the circuit's cool. There's people having like barbecues trackside.
What?
The spectators have better equipment than you.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
what it is. You'll be trackside at Fuji and you'll look behind you, and everyone's got these super telephoto lenses, which are worth 3 or 4 times what you've got. And I think it's a culture thing out there where everyone loves photography and cars. And yeah,
Makes
it's
sense.
amazing place.
Doing the photography from a spectator perspective versus a media tabard person accredited. How
Yeah.
do I say that? Are you like an accredited photographer?
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
that's a fair to say.
Okay, cool. So from when you started out and from all those people with the massive cameras at Fuji, doing it from a spectator perspective and then doing it the photography from an accredited photographer perspective, is there, I mean, obviously there's a lot of difference in where you can go and what can you do, but can you kind of explain that difference to us and how close you're allowed to the track, what kind of limitations are put on you? And then does it feel different?
I think. regardless of what level of photographer you are, you will always find good pictures to take, whether it's on the spectator side or whether you are accredited. There are exceptions to this. Some places like being Silverstone, where the place is covered in Armco barriers and fencing. It does make your job or commission more difficult if you have to work from spectator side. But the best start shots from Silverstone are not actually from trackside, they're in the grandstand.
Really?
So I never really shoot my starts at Silverstone from the ground,
Oh my
unless
God.
the grid is very small and you want to make it look a bit more busier, I suppose. If you shoot it from the ground,
Yeah.
when we fan out initially, it will look a lot busier. But yeah, some of the best shots are from the spectator areas. You
Mm.
get a better perspective of the grid when they come towards you. So when you are accredited, it allows you to work more efficiently because you have obviously better access, same as marshals essentially, where you can walk between the corners a lot quicker and you
Mm.
can get the different sequence of images you need. Obviously, when you're spectator side, sometimes there are limitations to where you can get to, but I wouldn't be put off with not having a media tabard if you are a starting out photographer, because you can still get the photographs you need, but you just have to walk around two different corners to get that certain photo you need. Being accredited does help, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah. From
Go
a
on.
photography perspective, do you have a pet peeve of race weekends?
There are a lot of pet peeves to some race weekends, some of which is the amount of time we spent sat behind a laptop working.
Oh, really?
Um, yes, so a lot of people, when they see my final galleries on Facebook or my website, they just must think that I take the cards out of my camera, shut them at my laptop, and then all of a sudden there's 80 nice photos uploaded onto Facebook. No, you have to select your images, obviously, because some of them won't be perfect. You need to sometimes make separate selections, some being for some clients, which have a separate pot of images, some for the organizers, some for your general galleries.
Gosh.
There's obviously a process to editing the images, which does take time, which is often enough why I take my laptop trackside with me. So if there's a red flag, I can save 5 or 10 minutes editing or selecting my images. And if you do this 5 or 6 times in a day, you can save an hour instantly in your evening, which is good in anyone's books, to be honest. If
Yeah,
you can save an hour on a laptop in the evening,
absolutely.
yes.
I never think about because I always see media people kind of disappearing up into race control and then coming back down again. You never think about the kind of editing side of it. Like whenever you send me photos, it's always so quick. I'm like, wow, okay, he must have just got the right shot all the time. I'm guessing that's not the case.
I mean, you do try and get the photographs as close to perfect in camera. So
Mm.
you try and get them at 70, 80% of the way there. And then by the time they get into Photoshop, which is what I use, often enough, it is just a case of an exposure correction, potentially some contrast, a crop. Motorsport circuits are famous for having a lot of circuit furniture, which we do not want in our pictures. Bins,
Really?
portaloos,
Oh yeah, Portaloos are not good.
there's lots of things that detract your eye from the photograph. So often enough, I will try and average about 8 seconds an image when I edit it in Photoshop.
Gosh, that's quick. That is very quick.
Yeah, but just due to the quantity of images that we take on weekends, that has to be the case.
Mm.
Otherwise, you'll still be editing the weekend 2 weeks later.
Oh my gosh. I
You know,
mean, roughly how many photos do you take a weekend?
I try not to look at my raw memory card folders for that exact reason because it gets very depressing. I
Okay.
think with technology these days, it's very easy to overshoot. There are photographers out there like Jeff Bloxham, which have come from the film days and they've been doing it for nearly, I don't know, 40 years. So, but people like this, they will still have the mentality of shooting film where it will be a frame of the car every time and it's perfect. I never worked in film as a motorsport photographer, so I've always known the case with digital that you can take as many images as you want and there's no consequence because obviously film cost money back then,
Yeah.
cost a lot of money. So you only took what you needed. With digital photography now, you can take as many as you want and there's no consequences. So to answer your question, lots. But I think the typical final galleries for a weekend with BRSCC, an opening weekend where it's very busy, I could upload anywhere between 2,000 and 2,500 images for all the categories. So that can be 6 or 7 categories. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
a driver could have anywhere between 5 to 15 images, which they could use after a weekend.
That's insane. I mean, that is incredible, but that's insane.
I am trying to take less as the years go on. I'm trying to upload less,
Why?
but well, people nowadays they want selection and variety. So there's a lot of great photos that you can get on a weekend. I think typically people focus more on the track photos more than anything.
Okay.
So I do try and spend a lot of time in the assembly area, which is where I met yourself and
Yep.
Anna Maria, who was in another podcast.
Yep.
I try and spend a lot of time in assembly areas capturing what happens in there because that is typically one of the only opportunities you get to interact with drivers out of the car
Mm.
on a busy weekend.
Unless they
So
crash out.
well, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you'll see them in assembly area. You'll get a shot of them leaving assembly area. One car, one picture on track during qualifying, and that's their set of images.
Bless him.
But I do find a lot of drivers and teams prefer the photographs of drivers nowadays. When I look at what is selling, what isn't, people prefer portraits out of the car, getting ready, whether it's putting in their earbuds or putting their helmet on. That
Mm.
seems to be a more popular choice than a
Okay.
photograph of a car on track.
That
So
makes
that's
sense.
why I prioritize it.
That makes a lot of sense. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is obviously like when I go into a weekend, I'll check my Marshall box over, make sure I've got my suit, my coat, my sun cream, everything I might need, my food. What kind of process do you have going into a race weekend?
I think the first thing will be just making sure the night before all my batteries are charged
Okay.
because I've done that before. I've forgotten
Oh,
to charge my batteries. I've
no.
gone to like the furthest part of the circuit possible. So like maybe Brands Hatch, for example, the GP loop. I remember last year for British GT, I went to the dip around the back of the GP, went all out there for the first session, switched on my camera. I could see the battery light flashing, and I'm just like,
No.
great. Fortunately, I had a second set of batteries, but you go through
Okay.
2 sets, but still, it's just that moment of dread. Yeah, so batteries are fairly essential, I'd say.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just making sure you've got enough drinks, food, like you say, suntan lotion as well. That's
Mm.
really important. I think a lot of people neglect their skin when they
Oh
work
yeah.
outside so much. Marshals and photographers probably spend the same amount of time outside.
Yeah. If you ever
So,
see me and I have like a bright red face or triangles, last
got you.
year someone came to me and went, "You look like a clown because you have triangles under your eyes." I was like, "Thank you."
It's funny when a couple of colleagues of mine which wear glasses and they get sunburn and it's the panda eyes are a real thing. It's hilarious.
That's
It's a
brilliant.
good job we're all friends though, so
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You need to be able to take the mic.
I don't really know what else I need to do to prepare. Normally looking through the timetable is quite beneficial. Having a general plan of
And so,
what you're going to do in the day.
do you plan where you want to be for each race, or do you just kind of see how the day takes you?
I think a typical race weekend, going back to what we discussed previously, wanting to prioritize people and stuff outside the car. But what I tend to do is I shoot assembly area for all of the qualifying sessions
Okay.
because that allocates me time to be able to get stuff which is not on track. You can't obviously you obviously you can't miss a start shot because that's quite a key picture. So that's why I choose to do what I do and do assembly area for all qualifying. So it's as much of trying to make your life as easy as possible with not having to move around too much. So for all of those sessions, I will stay in assembly area. For the races, you can't not obviously get a start picture, so I'll try and go to a turn one if it's possible. And yeah, and then for the rest of the races, you obviously just get in action. So, but yeah, it's beneficial to move around
Okay.
because otherwise, when you get to your final set of images, you'll look lazy because if all the photographs are taken from a certain corner,
Mm,
it looks like you've spent a weekend at a certain spot. So
that
I
makes
try and
sense.
be mindful of where I'm going based on where the sun is, because it obviously
Okay.
moves around during the day. So some corners work better at different times of the day.
Oh my gosh. I never
Um,
even thought of that.
yeah, so let's take Snetterton, for example.
Yeah.
Turn one and turn three is it's quite good in the morning.
Okay.
So this because the sun is behind you essentially. And then going into the afternoon, Agostini is better
Okay.
because the light is then as they're coming round into the corner, it's in the right place. And then the last corner at Snetterton at Coreham is probably my favorite, especially when you start getting into the winter months and it's the
Yeah.
last session of the day because when the sun is setting, you can basically see the driver's eyes through their visors super clearly. And it looks amazing.
That is incredible.
So I think it's attention to detail like that, which sometimes people need to be mindful of, which in a world which a lot of people take a lot of motorsport photographs, making small changes and just being particular with your photos it goes a long way. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And see, I never knew. I always see photographers wandering around, but I never know how you figure out where you're going to go. And I always wonder how I don't see just like a gaggle of you in one place all taking a photo. Like, I know that would be bad because then you all have the same photo. But like, I always expect to just see like a gaggle of photographers, and then I just don't. And I'm like, well, where are they?
yeah, I mean, you can't reinvent the wheel. There are some places you just have to go to, and inevitably you will end up following other colleagues around. Some
Mm,
photographers are more particular, where if they will see a lot of people in one place, they will, on principle, go elsewhere because maybe they don't want to talk to us, or they want different photos,
yeah.
maybe, So it is funny to be honest. Yeah, we do end up spending a lot of time socializing. I probably see more photographers more than my fiance
Oh, bless
in the
her.
week. So she knows what she's getting into though.
That's
It
helpful.
is it can be a strain doing what you do though, because you spend a lot of time away from home. And
Yeah.
especially if they have a midweek job, a proper 9 to 5, if you're away at the weekends and they are obviously working in the week, the crossover doesn't work that well sometimes. So
Yeah. That's
it's
fair.
important to take weekends off now and again and remind people that you exist. So
Do you always find it a bit weird when you take a weekend off though? Like, I could be there. I'm happy I'm here, but like also there's a bit of me that misses the track.
often enough, I will find myself watching motorsport streams on YouTube on my weekends off
Yeah.
because it feels weird. It does feel weird not being at a track at a weekend, but
Mm.
yeah, it's important to do other things in life as
There's
much
other
as I
things.
enjoy motorsport.
Yeah, there's other things that aren't just motorsport.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so one question I want to ask everybody, you're the third person, so everybody so far, is what's like the most dramatic moment you see? Wait, pause. Do you take, do you know when a crash is going to happen? Do you
Um,
like go to a corner because you're like, this is a popular corner for them taking it off the tarmac?
I mean, there are certain corners which do attract attention. Paddock Hill at Brands Hatch, for example. Not often enough, someone will come and visit you in the beach, in the gravel. I think a lot of marshals and a lot of photographers, you get quite good at reading the race. And
Mm,
if you know that certain drivers are quite aggressive in their driving style, and if they're together, the chances are there might be an incident or a crash. So you do end up picking up on a race and you can sometimes often predict when something's going to happen. But like everything in motorsport, you have to expect the unexpected, and it can be very dramatic when things happen and unfold in
mm.
front of you without, yeah, out of surprise. So,
That's fair. I
um,
don't know what it's like from a photographer. Obviously, as marshals, we get quite not normal blind to crashes, but we're quite used to them. So they don't tend to phase many marshals that have been doing it for a while as
hmm.
much as it could do, as much as it would a spectator. But I presume it's kind of the same for you.
Yeah, I think you become but a lot of like incidents you become normalized to it if
Mm,
cars make contact. I think probably the most shocking accident I've seen in recent years was Barcelona last year for GT World Challenge,
okay.
and it was the start of the first race on the Saturday, and they're all coming towards you at turn one, and one car got pushed into the guardrails. It went across another car, and the Audi R8 GT3 car burst into flames. And I still remembering thinking, this is not great. And
Yeah.
yeah, just it's not good. The driver was okay, thankfully, and he did get out. But I do remember seeing his helmet while he was engulfed in flames. The roll cage had cracked, and basically the car was an absolute mess. And
Yeah.
yeah, there are some things that stay with you for a while. So
Yeah.
it's part and parcel of what, of the nature of the sport though.
Yeah. Obviously, when an incident happens, we try and stop spectators taking pictures and everything. We stop them uploading things, and we try and give the drivers as much dignity as possible, as much space as possible. How does that work as a photographer? Do you kind of look at it and go, right, I'm going to stop taking pictures there? Do you try and get like those dramatic shots of the car on fire? How does it work?
So one example of this, last weekend there was an incident at Alton Park on the Saturday. A good friend of mine and a customer called John Cooper, he had a quite a bad accident.
Are you
The
doing okay?
car must have he is okay. He got out of hospital 3 days ago, I believe. And basically his car flipped over 3 or 4 times after a racing incident. And someone who was working for us did get the sequence, and he took a lot of photos of the accident. Photos like this, you do have to take them because often enough, when there's an investigation afterwards, the organising club and the circuit will need them. If there is police involved, for example, if there's fatal or if there's any sort of judicials with stewards, photographs like this are important
I never
to
thought about it from
document.
that perspective.
Yeah. So as much as sometimes it's not nice capturing what's happening in front of you, um, you do have to still take them. And if you do end up publishing them, it's like what, obviously you do not upload anything until you know the driver's okay. Or
Mm,
sometimes I do ask the driver if he's happy for me to publish them. But everything which I saw on the Alton Park Racing Facebook group,
mm.
nobody uploaded anything, which is really great to see until there was confirmation that the driver was okay.
That's good. That is
Yeah,
very good. Sometimes spectators can be awful for it.
yeah,
Not to
agreed.
diss on spectators, but
People need to remember that as much as it's a dramatic scene and it looks cool, seeing a car going over a few times, people just need to remember that there's a family behind that driver, and there are members close to this driver, and people need to respect their privacy and dignity until
absolutely.
people know that they're okay.
Absolutely. Moving on to slightly happier topics.
Yes.
What's like your favorite part of a weekend?
I think often enough it's socializing with a lot of people that you spend time with.
Yeah.
A lot of the clients and the drivers, you see them often enough every couple of weekends. So I was never really like one to keep in touch with a lot of my friends from school. So I find like a lot of my social and friend groups are around motorsport. Some of them which are people at my wedding next year. So yeah,
Ah,
a lot of my groomsmen are people which I've met through motorsport. So
that's
I'd
so
say the
cute.
social aspect of this job is great. I love it. I
Good.
obviously enjoy what I do in taking photos, but the whole atmosphere around a race weekend is great. So very much like marshalling, you enjoy the camaraderie and seeing people and being on post with people, which you
That's
enjoy
fair.
spending time with. It's good.
Is there an event you want to go to that you've not been to yet, both from a spectator point of view and a photographer point of view? They can be different events.
I quite like 24-hour races. I'm going to spectate Le Mans 24 hours this year, which I've
Oh,
done a couple of times, which will
yeah.
be really good. There's a group of us going, which will be an absolute car crash. It'll be a lot of fun. I think one I'd like to go and watch would be, uh, from a spectator point of view anyway, would be the Nürburgring 24 hours.
Oh, yes.
Be fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. In terms of working, that's a hard one. Don't know. I'd quite like to work the Formula One calendar at some point. Well,
Okay.
I say work a Formula One calendar. I'd like to shoot Formula One, do a one-off potentially. I think Monaco for me would be a really nice one to work.
Yeah, that's
The
fair.
setting, the location.
It looks
Yeah,
gorgeous. What's a 24-hour race like from your perspective? I've never marshaled a 24-hour race. I've never spectated one. I've heard a lot about it. It's something I want to do, but I've not done it. What's it like from a photography perspective? Can you still get photos at night? Is that a stupid question?
it's not a stupid question.
Hey.
It is entirely possible,
Okay.
and it is great fun. Normally, I work by myself on a lot of events.
Mm.
But obviously, for a 24-hour race, you are as much competing against the clock and your own stamina while
Oh
you're
my God.
working. So the most recent 24-hour race I covered was at Silverstone at the start of this month, and that was the
Hmm.
C1 24 hours.
Oh, I know someone that was
I
in that.
it was a fantastic event. We had 41 cars out that weekend.
How many made it to the end?
I do you know what? I don't know how many didn't actually.
Eh?
I
Well,
should
we'll
know
go with
this.
most of them made it to the end then.
Yeah, no, they are absolutely crazy. They are just a lot of these teams do not take themselves that seriously. So you've got such teams like Bacon Racing and other like humorous names and stuff, but everyone's there to have a great time. One driver I spoke to, Jade Edwards, she obviously splits her time up between British touring car paddock and other jobs that she does, like instructing and stuff. But
Yeah.
she interestingly said that she prefers the atmosphere of those weekends because everyone is a lot more chilled out. You're with a bunch of mates. You haven't got the commercial pressures of the Toka paddock where there's a
Mm.
lot more to deliver on. And I think everyone's just generally a bit more laid back. So the 24-hour race for everybody was quite fun, in my opinion. I
Hey.
had a good friend of mine, Dom Gibbons. He's a exceptional motorsport photographer, and he was along with me that weekend to help cover everything going on.
Hey, so you could actually
So
sleep.
yeah, no, we did really well. I ended up staying up and doing a bit of the graveyard shift as it is, staying to the early hours of the morning when people are
Yeah.
starting to doze off. And then I stayed on late into the morning for that. And then we kind of like transitioned over midway through the night, and he would get up to then do the sunrise. So
Oh,
he was up at 4 to 5 or something
ugh.
like that. But we both ended up having 6 hours sleep, I think. So
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, so I think sleep is important. So and being well rested, but obviously you are limited to one's brief and how many people are working on an event. So that is never normally the case. I think the last 24-hour race I covered, I managed maybe like 3 hours sleep,
Oh, that's
which
rough.
is grueling. Sometimes it's underneath a press office table.
Oh,
Sometimes it is a bed. It's you just have to react to a live event as it happens.
oh, bless you.
So yeah, 24-hour racing's fun. The shots you get at night time are fantastic, especially with Escapade now at Silverstone. There's a lot more of like rogue lighting around the circuit. So
Oh,
some
that
of the
helps.
images were pretty cool, in my opinion. Lots
Hey.
of sparking disc brakes and lots of like low shutter speed stuff. It's great. I love it.
I'm glad. I really want to do a 24-hour race. I
We
know
should
so
do
many
it.
people that have done it, but I want to go to the Le Mans 24-hour.
Has to be done.
It has to
The full
be.
camping experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
go out
see.
for a Thursday maybe or a
Yeah.
Wednesday, and you see the parade.
There's a
Uh,
parade.
yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that this year and watching that. I've never
Oh,
actually been to the parade before, so for me
really?
that's going to be an interesting experience.
Very
Um,
fair.
it is, I think the 24 hours of Le Mans is quite a stressful event to cover if you're working it because you sometimes you have to be in a lot of different places and you have to travel about. And I think the first Le Mans 24 hours I worked was a weird one because it was one without any spectators,
Oh, was
and it
it
was the
COVID-y?
own yeah the COVID Le Mans, which is strange because that's the only 24 hours Le Mans I've covered. So I've seen Le Mans from quite a strange perspective working with
Ooh.
no fans around, and it's quite eerie.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say that must be a bit creepy, especially at night.
yeah, a strange experience, I think. But normal 24-hour weekends, it's obviously full of people. It's hard to get anywhere quickly, and you've just got this white noise around you while you're working, which
Yeah.
is nice in itself because there's an atmosphere, but it's also can be just a bit draining.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a lot
Yeah,
to deal with for a long time.
yeah. No, it's good. Some people thrive under that pressure,
Yeah.
others don't as much, but everyone's different. So
That's fair. I definitely, back to what Jade Edwards was saying, I definitely get the smaller weekends can be nicer. Because weekends like touring cars can be very stuck to a TV schedule. I imagine
mhm.
like the big profile ones are as well. Having those smaller weekends where you can talk to people, you can get to know teams. Sometimes they'll give you cake, which is just great for me.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
No, it's I think the atmosphere in club racing in
Mm,
itself is something I prefer a lot of the time because everyone seems a bit more relaxed and there's less stress, like you say, from the televised side and the
yeah,
commercial side of some of the bigger weekends where there's sponsors and lots of other different activities that happen, which don't get me wrong, it can make an event.
absolutely.
Pit lane walkabouts, there's Q&As, but sometimes you just can't beat a nice club racing event where
Yeah,
everything's down to earth, chilled out, and everyone's there just really to have a good time.
yeah. I love the variety you get in motorsport, like the variety of people that you get to meet and the skills. And if you do have to run to TV time versus just a calmer weekend, it's always makes for something different and it's always exciting.
Yeah, I'm at
God.
Mallory Park this weekend and there's no
Oh,
Friday testing. I've not been back there since 2022, so
really? I mean, I've never been, but really?
yeah, it's an interesting circuit. You have to drive into the circuit if you want to access the infield by car.
Okay.
They have allocated time slots during the day for you to enter and exit the circuit. So if you've raced in the morning at Mallory Park, say at 9, well, half 9,
Mm.
you sometimes have to wait till lunchtime to leave the circuit because they don't have a tunnel or a bridge.
Do
They
they
have a
not?
pedestrian footbridge. Yeah, well, they
Yeah.
have a pedestrian footbridge, but there's no way for a vehicle to leave the circuit. So you have to exit the circuit via the hairpin at
Oh
the
my
top of the
God.
circuit. But the places like Mallory Park are amazing because it's a blast from the past. They haven't really changed it over the years, and
Yeah.
it's just a nice sort of grassroots level racing circuit, which is it's got some good corners. It's a little bit on the short side, I'd say, but it's somewhere which I've not photographed in a number of years, so I'm enjoying that. Going to enjoy that challenge of having to think a bit on my feet and yeah, think about where I'm going to go for that weekend because with a lot of circuits, you get into a bit of a rhythm with where you go and you can almost sleepwalk to where you need to go and what you need
Yeah,
to do during some of those more popular venues. So when you visit those popular venues.
that makes sense. So I hope
Yeah.
you have a great weekend. I really want to
Thank
go to
you.
Mile Road, but I hope you have a great weekend.
Are you
Um,
anywhere this weekend?
it's no, it's BSB at Donington. So I don't marshal bikes because I don't think I could pick up a bike and I don't really want everyone laughing at me when I fall over with it when I'm trying to pick it up. Uh, and I've also got work tomorrow evening, so I can't go anywhere, very sadly.
Just have a bit of respite from the motorsport venues. But
Yeah,
going back to bikes, though, they are so cool to watch and photograph.
yeah.
They're amazing.
I've only been to one bike event and I only did it as a spectator. I really want to go to more because it was so fun to watch. Like they race so close sometimes, and the
Yeah.
angles they're going around corners, you look at them and go, how? How?
It's when they go through woodcut for
Mm.
BSB and they're literally the shoulders are almost touching the barriers.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
they're just there's something else really, aren't they? Yeah,
Yeah.
they are crazy.
Yeah. I suppose you've got to be to get on a bike and race it.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
good. Wish I shot more bikes.
Go do more.
Must do. Yeah. I've got a friend that shoots which races in EMRA,
Oh
so
yeah.
which is I would say it's probably more entry level bike racing compared to your BSB. So I need to go along and maybe support him one weekend and shoot some of the races that he does. So just as
Yeah.
to mix things up a bit. Be
Yeah,
good fun, I
absolutely.
think.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be interesting. It does sound fun. Plus,
Hmm.
more racing at the weekends.
Yeah, well, no, I'll thank everyone for tuning in and listening to me waffle on a bit. It's the first time I've actually done one of these, so it's been really nice to open up and
Yeah,
chat about a few thoughts going on. But no, it's been really great
I'm
being on
glad.
our orange suits and boots. So yeah,
Thank you very
it's
much.
been a nice experience
Good.
because I've spoken and met with you a lot of times. It just feels very natural and normal, I suppose. So
Yeah,
and
that's my
it's just like
aim.
talking to someone in the paddock. No, thank you so much. It's been really
No,
enjoyable.
thank you for actually coming on an interview. I'm aware this can be a vaguely terrifying process, and I'm really, really grateful that you've been
It
willing
hasn't
to.
been at all.
I'm
Yeah,
glad. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Orange Suits and Boots podcast. Make sure you go follow James Roberts on all of the socials you can, and the rest of the photographers that we've spoken about today as well. If you've enjoyed this, give us a little follow, a little subscribe, go find our socials. Would be very, very grateful. Thank you. Bye.